Hi, I'm Ken Steele, host of 10 with Ken. Our team recently went on site to the University of Waterloo to profile its Velocity Garage. If you haven't watched or listened to the full episode, please check it out on any of a dozen channels where you might be watching this video. Our day included interviews with dynamic young entrepreneurs about their startup companies, their amazing new products, and of course their experience with Velocity. Since these young entrepreneurs were so generous with their time, we thought we should share more of their interviews with you than we could squeeze into the one episode. Here's our full interview with Stephen Ten Holder, CEO of Acorn Cryotech.
At acorncryotech.com.
All right. Were you a student at Waterloo at one point?
Yes, I was.
What program were you in?
Molecular genetics in biology.
Tell me a bit about what Acorn Cryotech is.
Sure. So Acorn cryopreserves people's young cells so that we can use them in the future with advanced medical technology. You can imagine taking a sample from yourself today when it's the best it's going to be, growing up different cell types, and then using those on your future self, especially as technology is moving towards a future where cells are playing an increasingly important role.
You're terrifying me. The best I'm going to be. It's like it's too late to do this. But okay, when did this idea come to you?
All throughout high school, I was pretty anxious about the idea of growing old, so I thought about ways that science might be able to do something to help out. In my undergrad, actually here at Waterloo, they have an awesome program in co-op. I had the opportunity to go to different labs, and they had a lot of these big -80 freezers. And I thought, hey, if I'm going to be studying longevity in the future, maybe if I freeze some of my own cells now, just stash them in all these freezers I come across, in the future I'll come back and find them and say, this is a wonderful sample, I could use this for my research. It occurred to me that's probably not a good idea, and other people might want to do the same thing. They might want their own young samples to bring for themselves into the future to study or to use. And so I thought, okay, let's make a community biobank of people with the same mindset as I have. And then after I learned more about business and what it takes to actually do something like that, it occurred to me that, starting a real company would be the best way to go about it. And so that's how Acorn came about.
Okay.
So is this related to stem cell research?
Yeah. Is this something where you can take stem cells now and use them at a later date? It absolutely is. So recently, out of the lab in Japan of Yamanaka, they discovered that you can take any adult cell from a human and revert it back to a stem cell-like state, so-called induced pluripotent stem cells. So for us, we thought, if we can take cells from people today non-invasively using a kit that we ship to their home, then grow those out at our lab and freeze them, in the future, we'll be able to continue growing them, but convert them into those induced pluripotent stem cells and turn those into whatever we want. Things like new organs, potentially, that you could 3D print using those cells. So then you have young versions of your cells to bring with you into the future. Yeah, so it definitely relates to stem cell research.
So yeah, you're saving these cells and then you can do anything you want with them in the future.
Exactly. We work really well with any of those advancements. So what's great about what I do is that I get to tout a lot of what science is doing as part of our core business. We ourselves are not in the lab growing those organs or creating those corneas. We are creating the foundations upon which better versions can be made in the future. There are also stem cell populations in the urine and hair that we collect as part of our kit. So that's also kind of a bonus, but we're focusing on the induced pluripotent stem cell angle.
Is the hair an absolute necessity for
for the kit?
So you can also do eyebrow hair.
While you were a student here, were you aware of Velocity?
So I heard about Velocity first in my first year. I remember my Don actually was talking excitedly about Velocity as something he might want to join. And then I heard little inklings about it I was in an undergraduate program called iGEM, and Velocity actually came over one time and they were like, hey, what are you guys doing? You're doing cool stuff. Like, we're doing cool stuff. Like, I'd love to collaborate. And so that's how I learned more about Velocity science. Yeah, so the university did a pretty good job of showing students that entrepreneurship was possible through their Velocity program.
I think they showed us the freezer back there that was partly here because you needed to go that cold. But are you at the garage or at science or at both?
We started off using professor labs, and then we moved to Velocity Science because they gave us our own space, which was really nice. So that's the space they have on campus. We were there for about 8 months, just doing our preliminary research. I had hired my first co-op student there, and then we moved over here to the garage. They built an amazing facility, which I think you were able to see, that has a biological safety cabinet, and it's just got all the equipment that we need to scale up to the next level. They've also got a place that we can kind of like shimmy our way out once we start to get to that point. So they do a good job.
So are you stage 2 company?
We are a stage 2 company, yes.
So stage 2 is still refining the product, right?
That's right. So it's saying you've proven that you've gotten some market out there that wants what you're going to be selling. Don't spend, a year of your life producing something that people aren't going to want.
Right.
But now that you've shown that, go ahead and build it. Take the time to make something that is valuable and sell that to people later on. Yeah.
So have you got celebrity cells on file yet? Can we clone Leonard Nimoy or something from your freezer?
That'd be awesome. I keep thinking that I really want Elon Musk to be in the freezer because I want him to live a lot longer. I really want, genuinely want him to be in there. Yeah, I mean, nothing that I can talk about, but I think it'd be nice to be able to have something like that. Yeah.
Nothing we can talk about. That sounds so CIA.
CIA.
What's the best thing about being part of Velocity for your company?
Oh man, there's so many. So they've got amazing mentorship. The people around here really make sure that what you're doing is on the right track, and that you've got the right ideas. If you find that you're stumbling, you need more ideas about how to progress, what things to work on. As an entrepreneur, it seems like there's a world of work that you could be doing, and so many options as to what to focus on. And it's really good to have mentors to channel you and say, these are the most important things for you right now at your stage. Obviously, the space and the facility itself is wonderful. I think without Velocity, we wouldn't have the foothold in order to get off the ground to a spot where, within the next year, maybe we could move out. And also the community. There's a community of other startups here, which make it really nice to work with and learning from other startups as well on big decisions I've had to make, late at night, 11 o'clock on a Friday, and I could only find, other startup co-founders to ask them, people who have gone through it before I have, what did you do in this situation? What's your advice? And that helped a lot.
Did you always know you were going to become an entrepreneur after your program? When did that moment of inspiration strike?
Sure, good question. Absolutely not. I was going to be a scientist and an academic for the rest of my life. I was pretty romantic about it coming into my first year, actually, from high school. I thought, finally, the haven of scholars, I'll get to go to the, and meet all these. Of course, you find out that you actually have to wait a little longer and allow for more refined programs and stuff. But I think Velocity swept me by surprise, and the biotech industry itself is something that I've become more romantic about than my original aspirations. I've listened to Nature's Biotechnology, startup podcast, and I've been inspired by the stories of a lot of different leaders in biotechnology. Oh, and TED Talks have also been a real inspiration. Actually, as a kid, I watched TED Talks like crazy, and that was a part of what made me think so optimistically about the future of biotechnology. The entrepreneurial culture. So I was only inundated in the entrepreneurial culture once I actually started to get my own company off the ground. So I think it was more the community environment after I found out about it. I mean, that being said, when you're at Waterloo, you hear stories about people being entrepreneurial all the time, innovative and starting companies, and
their names are on the buildings
everywhere, like BlackBerry. It's ridiculous, but also amazing and great. And it's something that I think makes you think that even if you have a crazy idea that may seem not so feasible because you're just a student, pursuing it here and with the support that you have here, to me, makes a big difference. Yeah, seeing that other people around me have succeeded. You're starting something from nothing as a student where, you're intimidated by the great big world. How could I possibly start an entire company? But then the environment around Waterloo, seeing innovation happening at every corner, seeing people start companies, I think it inspires people to think that it is possible. And that's what's so magical about what's going on at Waterloo. So they were asking about whether Waterloo takes any percentage. I think now it's a big factor, but looking back, like if Velocity said or Waterloo said, we're going to take 5%, I'd be like, okay, you've given us so much, that's okay. They do have a program for giving back. There's a program that Velocity and Waterloo, I think, collaborated on. We were one of the companies that were reached out to say, we're going to commit ourselves to giving back to the community if our company succeeds in a big way. I think that was the startup pledge. We even got little socks with Waterloo logo on it. Yeah, it was very cool.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
10 with Ken is a production of Eduvation Inc., copyright 2017. I'm available for conference keynotes, campus PD events, board retreats, and committee workshops, in person or now virtually too. For more information, please visit www.eduvation.guru or 10withken.com.